right, so we're back with my friend Evangelos Simoudis of Synapse Partners. You can find his blog at corporateinnovation.co. We're recording this September 26th, morning off, and the episode notes will be at dataexchange.media. So if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you are listening to this on a podcast, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. All right. So topic one, agents, especially in light of the recent AIconference.com. Lots of talks about agents, but I'll let Evangelos open up with some of what he heard at the conference.
So first of all, Ben, it's good to see you again.
Yes.
It's I always look forward to this conversation. So as you said, last week the AI conference was very successful. I was amazed at both how many people attended.
Such a great program, Chair.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I was going to say thanks to the program chair's continuous work. I was impressed by the conversations that at least I participated in, and the all the energy and buzz that was going on throughout the conferences today. And I'm already looking forward to next year. Okay, so let's put that aside. Now, what was really interesting to me about the event was both in the trade show side as well as the presentation side, how many of the conversations of the presentations were about agents. And the reason that it hit me is because I think when I look at what is happening at the enterprise, which is what we serve, and what is happening, particularly on the technologies that startups are introducing, there is this delta, and I hope that we don't come to regret it. And particularly, I wanted to focus on agents because I think that the way that they're being presented and the way that they're being advertised or promoted, however you want to put that, it's ahead of the curve, right? So let me give a couple of examples. So today there is no question that enterprises are starting to experiment with chatbots, right? They're using models either to create their own chatbots, or they're using chatbots off the third-party chatbots. We see that in tasks such as customer support. We see it in programming with co-pilots. These are not, as I have written about my agent spectrum in a couple of my blogs, these are a type of agent, but not full-blown agent. And a lot of times, the way that they're being discussed, they give their own impression. The second point, though, I wanted to talk about is when I look at what's happening, the enterprise is experimenting and is finding a number of issues with these experiments. I'll give you, again, a couple of examples. If you look at Salesforce and ServiceNow, they have made a big deal with their agent software. In the case of Salesforce, they talk about Agent Force. I forget the name of the ServiceNow agent, but they have several pilots. But the word that is coming out of those pilots is, number one, costs are high, and the costs are high because agents are accessing through APIs a variety of LLMs. The case studies are not there yet. The training is not there yet. So there is and I should say there is shadow agents, shadow AI going on in the enterprise, and creating there are a number of let's call them rogue agents that are throughout the enterprise, which creates problems with cybersecurity. As I said, cost is a big deal. We'll talk later about reliability and what it means. So this is an issue which, again, I think that, and I've said this to a number of the companies that I spoke to at the conference, they need to modulate a little bit about what message they're trying to communicate, and try to understand where the industry really is, where the corporation really is with regards to the adoption of such systems. There's no question, again, as I said, that agents can be great value accelerator and value multiplier for the enterprise. So I'm not against using this type of structures, but I think we need to be careful in terms of what kind of narrative we create around it.
Yeah. So there's, I think, I love everything you said there. I think there's also the disconnect, like you said, the shadow agents that the workers put on are almost like this next generation robotic process automation, right? So I'm a knowledge worker. I have a certain workflow that I hate. So now that I have these tools, I'll automate them. But it's very kind of restricted, and since no one in IT will bother to do that, I'll do it myself, right?
Right.
And then secondly, I think also for the bigger players in the space, the ones you mentioned, the ServiceNows, the Salesforces, and so on, I think what I also really hammered home for me in the conference is there's a certain amount of basics and foundation you have to have in place. So I'll just broadly sketch out what these are. So on the unstructured side, I think actually you have to have your act around search, right? So if you can't do search well, then I don't know how your agents will possibly.
Yes.
No, the general purpose agents will do well, right? So
Yes.
and then on the structured data side, I think you have to have some form of a semantic layer, right? So and I think the big players, the Databricks, the Salesforce, and some startups can help you do that, but these models are not going to be miraculous, right? So you have to give them some context and some help. So
I'll give you a couple of
have some foundational substrates in place.
Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot to corporate executives, and I keep hammering on them the fact that on two things. Number one, the state of their data needs to be at a level that agents or any other intelligence systems can use. Number two, they need to rethink their workflow. And in the process of rethinking their workflows, and I have written a little bit about this, they need to start deciding what is going to be an AI application where I have incorporated maybe a model, where I have incorporated some intelligent capability, regardless of how that capability is represented. It may be a knowledge base or something else, or a predictive model. But they need to understand what needs to become an application and what needs to be an autonomous agent. Another point, by the way, we talk about agents and we always think of the software incarnation of these things. We should not forget the hardware incarnation. In the conference, there was only one robotics or pseudo robotics company. It got a lot of pictures, but I don't think it registered for a lot of people.
We did have Rodney Brooks.
We had Rodney Brooks, and he made some excellent points.
Who
right?
introduced the Brooks rule, right? So any robotics demo that you see is 10 years away from production.
For that, exactly. But the point is that, and Rodney talked about this, we are making great progress. I mean, I remember we had funded in my previous firm, Trident Capital, we had funded iRobot, which produced the Roomba vacuum cleaner. We have come long ways from Roomba. You look at right now what's happening in what Hyundai is doing with Boston Dynamics, what even Tesla is doing with Optimus, Figure AI. You know, there are a number of companies that are creating humanoid robots, and there are a lot of pilots going on, particularly in the automotive industry, where we spend a lot of time. Firm spends a lot of time. There are a lot of pilots going on. I think we need to start thinking more holistically about agents. But more importantly, as I said a minute ago, we need to be thinking about what is the workflow, what is the quality of my data, what do I need to change in my workflow? Do I need to rethink it completely, or do I need to adapt it? Am I going to use an application, or am I going to use an agent? Is it going to be a single agent? Is it going to be a multi-agent system? So I think these need to be thought out.
All right, so we'll pick up this discussion in a future episode. But next topic at the conference, which I have to admit, I heard a lot about it in the conference, but I actually entered the conference with this topic in mind already, which is reliability, reliability of AI applications and solutions. And part of the reason I've been thinking about it is I've been reading and hearing a lot of stories about medical AI or LLMs as psychotherapists. So it was in the back of my mind. And then at the conference, I was actually struck by the number of friends who said that this was an area of focus for them right now, which actually makes a lot of sense, because once you take these applications away from kind of the more or less, I guess, more serious context, then reliability becomes, if all you're doing is can you produce a graphic for me, then it's not that big a deal. So then around reliability, obviously, you have the headline topics of hallucination, right? So, and then as many people know, these models are really stochastic. They're not deterministic. So, and they're very sensitive to the prompts. And by the way, one thing that listeners may not be aware of, when people talk about agents and orchestrating agents and things of that sort, most listeners will probably think, "Oh, these people are really building sophisticated software." But really, if you talk to people and drill down, the agents are really prompts. So
in today's level of agent, yes.
Yeah. A lot of the IP is in the prompts, right? So
in today's agents, yes.
and so when you talk to people in this space, right? So, and you ask them, what model are you using? They'll say this model, and then I'll suggest, why don't you switch to this model? It's cheaper. Oh, if we switch to this model, then we have all these prompts. We will have to kind of test, and migration is not as easy, right? So, so there's that very LLM specific problem, right? So, now I'm painting kind of somewhat of a negative picture here, but one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is the fact that a lot of people at the conference are actually kind of focused on this, and this is too big a topic, but there are, some broad ideas that people are sharing among themselves about how to address some of these problems, right? So how to dampen down on hallucination. You have this usual grounded generation and things like that. The most interesting thing I saw at the conference is something that's in production that actually uses three concepts, right? So one, the notion that because we're in this prompt-centric and LLM-centric world, and you have agents that are really comprised of a bunch of prompts, what is optimization in the context of prompts? Well, it turns out that there are researchers who figured this out, right? So they have a notion of how do I do the equivalent of stochastic gradient descent in the world of text, right? So this is the text grad out of Stanford. And then what the folks at Zeta Alpha did was they took this notion of text grad and they married it with an evolutionary algorithm out of Berkeley based on Pareto optimization in optimization theory. And so now they have a evolutionary algorithm so that they can now, in a much more principled way, optimize this family of prompts, right? So in this new notion of gradient descent, and then they have an open source project around ELO, right? So the way the LM Arena folks rank there. So I'm just throwing that out as an example that's a much more advanced example, but they do have that in production. But there are initial steps that people can do already to basic steps that you would imagine you need to do in order to inject software engineering rigor in this context. Everything from versioning your prompts to and using other LLMs as judges and so on and so forth. So anyway,
By the way, I wanted to add one more thing to your list because, as you said, this is an extremely important topic, and I think it can be critical to the success of this time AI in
by the
in
way,
the enterprise.
before you go start there, one example hammers home this for will hammer this home for listeners, right? So some researchers in medical AI found that if you prompt these models and say, "Hey, I'm an insurance agent, blah blah blah," and then you prompt it again, "Hey, I'm a physician, blah blah blah," completely different answers.
Well, this is what I was going to say. Actually, this is
Yeah.
very good setup
Yeah.
because there are two aspects to the reliability. There is the aspect of hallucination, right? Am I getting the right response to the question that I'm asking, to the prompt that I'm providing? The second one is, if I were to ask the same question twice, will I get exactly the same answer?
This is the non-deterministic point that I highlighted.
And that is a big deal for the enterprise, right? Because that can open. I mean, the reason that this is important because it can even open the enterprise to lawsuits and other kind of risks that they will not want to. No enterprise will want to undertake. Anyway.
Yeah. So that's why I'm excited about this notion of text grad and this genetic Pareto optimization. But also there's things that people have already been using for a while, which is using consensus, right? So using more than one LLM and arriving at a consensus. But obviously that's expensive and there's latency.
Exactly. Cost is a big issue here. Cost is a big issue.
And the whole notion that you can do, for example, most people now at this point realize that RAG is not going to solve all your problems around hallucination. But even let's say it does. In the medical domain, that's actually not enough because as many listeners are aware of, there's so many retracted scientific papers and medical studies, right?
Yes.
So basically, you actually need some sort of real-time integration to those databases of retracted papers almost. Because if someone tells you, Tylenol is unsafe, right? So then you go to one of these retracted database of papers, and then you realize, oh, this is actually a wrong. But unless you go to that database, the context window of your prompt may have fed it a technically correct thing, but from a wrong paper, right?
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I think that in many ways, I think this will distinguish. What do you think about this, Evangelist? This will distinguish the startups that succeed from those who don't. The people who take reliability and trust more as a kind of a almost like a this is core to our product, right?
I agree with you, and I will add to it that one of as I started saying a few minutes ago, uh, one of my concerns walking out of the conference was the level of discussion about agents was done at a surface, and some of the very important issues that relate to agents, including cost, including reliability, including the workflows and how you should think about, they were not paid enough attention, neither by the vendors that were there, nor by some of the speakers. So there's an excitement about agents, and again, as it should be. And I think, as I said before, there are many benefits that agentic AI could bring to the enterprise and to consumer. But I think we need to be very cognizant of the risks that exist and work to take care of them rather than just sweeping them under the rug.
And I think, like I said, so I think the startups that take reliability and trust will have an upper hand. Now, you may take the attitude, well, I don't have to deal with that because the foundation model builders are making progress, and I'll just uh, I'll just kind of benefit from whatever improvements uh, they make. But I don't think you can count on that right away. I mean, I don't know that that will happen immediately or in the foreseeable future. So in the meantime, I think the startups that take reliability and trust very seriously will have an upper hand.
I agree. And I also do not think, by the way, that uh, developers should automatically assume that all agents will need to access foundation models. I mean, this can get very expensive in many
Yeah. There's
instances.
the smaller models. Oh, I just wrote a post about smaller models, and I kind of laid out all the benefits, but I tried to put a counterpoint, right? So cost, what's the counterpoint, right? So
Yeah,
flexibility, what's the counterpoint, and so on and so forth. Uh, but the bottom line is reliability and trust, I think, will be a competitive advantage
yeah, yeah, yeah.
for
I agree.
startups. All right, so closing topic, really quick hit. H-1B visa. I was an H-1B visa holder. I am broadly against this new policy of the 100K, mostly from wearing the hat of someone who supports startups. I think this will be harder for startups and small companies than anything else. Some big corporations have more things they can twiddle with, right? So they can open an office in another location, or if someone
Yeah.
is really good, they'll pay up the 100K. But startups just don't have that money, right?
No.
So if a key member of your team is, I don't know, somewhere in London, and you want to bring them here, that's suddenly very cost prohibitive for a small company.
Yes, I look. I'm an immigrant like you are to this country, and I think that the H-1B visa has been exploited in ways that are not always do not always make sense. They may make financial sense to certain companies. And I think that the administration took a hard stance here with regards to starting to address the problem. I think, though, we need a more nuanced approach as opposed to one size fits all approach, because the kind of startups that you and I deal with obviously are going to
100K is not
suffer.
trivial for those companies.
Exactly. Not when you pay 180,000 to an engineer, right? I also want to note that it's not only the startups that you and I know, but small companies in general, and there are millions of them in this country, will also suffer because of that. So I think that I'm for taking care of the abuse, but I'm also recommending that for a more nuanced approach to this.
And there's actually also for the large companies, right? So there's the tech companies that that were able to recruit, are just able to recruit, because a lot of people want to work for them, especially right now with the AI boom. But if you're a large Fortune 500 company who may not have that sexy brand around tech, you go to Stanford or some of these top schools. One of the ways you could recruit in the past was you can offer H-1B visa,
H-1B visa,
right? So now that's I guess you can still do that, but it's going to be expensive.
It's going to be more expensive. Yeah. And look, again, as I said, I think that we need to, as a country, I think we need to think about it, to think about this issue very carefully, because there is going to be a brain drain, as many people call it. And we're already starting to see it in academia. I think with this, we're going to start seeing it in industry. And as I said, we have to recognize that the system has been abused for many years, but we also have to recognize what could be the detriment of this. I wrote a piece not too long ago about the automotive industry and what are some of the problems that are ailing it. The automotive industry continues to shed positions because of smaller demand in a variety of sectors. I mean, yesterday, Bosch in Germany announced big layoff. A number of other automakers announced furloughs. But I will also point to what the CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, mentioned, that there are 500,000 unfilled jobs in U.S. manufacturing today. But these are jobs that require sophisticated skills, which require different kind of education, different kind of background. And as we bring more manufacturing back into this country, as the administration's stated goal is, I think we need to worry about how we equip, what kind of personnel we put to these new plants. And I think that, again, many of the H-1B holders could fill these positions, but it may not be possible now because of the cost, particularly, as I said, for the smaller companies to hire them. But there is this 500,000, and I think will grow in the future, 500,000 open positions right now that in manufacturing alone that are not filled because of lack of background, not because there's no we're doing something else to inhibit hiring.
And broadly speaking, I think this really is an argument for actually comprehensive immigration reform that we tried to do way back in the before times. And part of that immigration reform, I hope, is kind of this notion that, if you have a master's or PhD degree in a technical or scientific discipline in a U.S. university, we'll give you a green card on the spot. But that's because you and I fell under that bucket back in the days, right? So, all right. And with that, thank you, Evangelos.
Thank you very much. It's always good to see you.